Chapter 36. The minister was sitting at her desk, wearing reading glasses and signing document after document when I went in. She glanced at me dismissively and returned to her work. It had taken me perseverance and over 2 hours to get past security so I could see her. She occupied a corner office in the construction house on Leopold Takawira Street. Her hand moved with a flourish over the paper, and I felt as invisible as a gnat. If you're expecting me to come to your new salon Vimbai, then you should know I can't do it. Loyalty is very important. It pays to stick with your choices sometimes. She looked up at me, took her glasses off, and put them on the table. That's not what I've come here for. My voice broke. Then what can I help you with? My receptionist said you were very adamant and you would not tell anyone else what this was about. I have a good reason. Out with it then. I'm very busy. It's about Mr. M and Doomy. I fished in my handbag and placed the journal on her table. What is this? I think you better read it for yourself. She squinted her eyes, then perched her reading glasses on the end of her nose. She sighed as she read through it, muttering, "Not again," to herself. It seemed ages before she took off her glasses, but this time she kept them in her hand. There was an anguished look on her face, but after a moment she regained her composure. Who else knows about this? You're the first person I came to. I always thought you were a clever girl. She stood up and went to stand by the large window that ran from corner to corner, intersecting with another at a right angle. Are you absolutely certain there's no one else who knows this? I'm sure. This whole country is in a mess. I look down from my window every day and see it. To your right is your downtown, an area I wouldn't advise you to visit. It is filthy, full of crime and vice that runs all the way to Mbare, the beating heart, an example of everything that is wrong with this nation. On the other side, you have First Street, Karingamombe, and roads that take you all the way to the suburbs where you and all the decent people live. But Mbare is encroaching on you inch by inch. Have you ever been in war? I saw one firsthand. It is not a pleasant thing. You see, men like my husband are funny creatures. When they reach a certain age, feel they need to feel to revive the excitement that they once had in their younger days. They look at their wife, and she has aged, even put on a little weight. They begin to experiment, first with younger girls, then they work their way all the way up back to the top until they are screwing their own grandmothers. But they still can't get that excitement. So they do something radical. They become beasts with their experimentation. That's why this country is in a mess. That's why this country is in the mess it's in, because it's been run by stupid men. I hope you're following me so far. I am. I was nodding my head throughout her spiel. Don't interrupt me. I have ambitions that run to the highest office in the land. My ministry is one of the few functional ones left because I can get things done. I bled for this country and dedicate my life to its service. I also have many enemies all around me waiting to bring me down at a moment's notice. The information that you have given would be very useful to them if it falls in their hands. This is why this has to stay in this office and go nowhere else. I need to be able to trust you, Vimbai. You can trust me. I shifted in my chair uncomfortably. She flicked through the pages of the journal and began to tear it up. She passed the leaves through the shredder and bin the cardboard covers. There now, that's gone. Tell me, how's Chiedza? You mean my daughter Chiwaniso? She's fine. That's good. Are you looking after her well? Yes. I was beginning to wonder where this all was going. Girl children are very special. They're a gift from God. What school does she go to? Admiral Tate. And are you happy with that school? The teachers are very good. She'll need to go to a good secondary when she's finished, though. Arundel, Chispite, and Dominican convent are the ones that spring to mind. The most valuable thing to me is loyalty. I place a value on it above anything else. Those who are loyal to me, I reward. Those who are not, I punish. Those two things are as constant as death and taxes. This deed you have done for me, I will carry it in my heart forever. Wherever I may be, you can come to me and ask what you will. I understand you perfectly. I swear I will not tell anyone what I know. That's the right thing to do. This boy, Dumisani, where is he now? I don't know. He ran away from me after I confronted him. Leave this with me. I will take care of everything. You go back to your life and find yourself a good man, and this time make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Chapter 37. I walked through the packed streets of the city, feeling like I was being weighed down by 30 pieces of silver. People marched in different directions. Here a woman carried a basket laden with fruit on her head, and there was a man with a bicycle pump walked along, whistling the tune by Oliver Mikuduzi. This mass of bodies, I wondered if there was if there were others like Doomy hiding in plain sight. A young man with a tight pair of trousers walked past me. Was he one of them, or just someone who could not afford to get himself a new pair? Schoolboys with perms walked by. They could be on their first step down that road as well. I went on to First Street, where a street magician was walking on a wire, blowing flames in the air. A crowd had gathered around him, tightly packed together. People no longer feared pickpockets. That profession had died because no one carried a wallet anymore. The bricks of money in my purse would not have enticed anyone, I thought, as I went past Barber's department store with large back to school advertisements on the window. There was a restlessness in me as I struggled with my conscience. My phone rang, but I could not answer it on the street. It was probably Sarah asking after me. I made a note to make her my manager since there was no way I could give the job to Doomy now. I got a lift and headed to Budiriro to see Fungi. Dropping off at the shops, I headed to the open fields where he told me he held his club. I looked all around. Where once there was bush, people now grew maize. The streets were busy as usual with idle youths hanging about, hoping for better times. I stopped one unkempt lad wearing khaki shorts and asked if he knew where the philosophy club was held. Of course, everyone knows those lunatics. Go across the field and head for those rocks over there. You'll find them talking nonsense there. He went off before I could say thanks. The young don't care. Once I had cleared the field, I saw a group of 10 young men sitting and talking. One of them sat far away from the rest. I guessed who he was immediately. Fungi had told me of a chap called Tonderai who refused to brush his teeth as a protest for the way the country was being governed. He occasionally went around different government departments tormenting officials with the sheer power of his torrid breath until they would chase him away after they had suffered enough. Fungi had tried to discourage this, but Tonderai persisted, saying he was the disciple of Diogenes the Cynic. Even now, among friends, he had to sit at a distance and shout his points across because not one of them could bear to be near him. There was a tattered exercise book besides Fungi. It was the handwritten copy of Plato's Republic, which he had painstakingly copied over a month because he could never hope to have enough money to buy a real copy. Its leaves rustled in the wind, and he placed a protective hand over it to prevent it from being blown away. They were engaged in a fierce debate. The goodness of man is an inherent quality which resides in his soul from the moment of conception. It is not something that needs to be taught, though its qualities can be nurtured through study and self-discipline, one of them explained, waving his hand ferociously in the air. But you've not explained why the quality of good is inherent, but not that of evil. I say man has these dual qualities in equal measure, and both are desirable at different times during a man's development. For example, during childhood, particularly infancy, it is more desirable to draw upon the good than the evil because if children were evil, society would abandon them. Yet when a man has matured, he will use both to further himself and achieve his ends. In old age, a man reverts back to solely being good because he needs society to look after him more and does not have the strength to perform evil deeds. What do you think, Cece? Fungi said, pointing to me. The others all turned their heads to listen. I don't know what you were talking about, I replied, hoping to get out of answering. We were trying to discover if the true nature of man is good, evil, or something in between. The Bible teaches us that we were in a state of grace until Adam sinned, and so sin is passed down on all of us unless we repent and we are baptized. We try to discover the truth for ourselves here. We do not refer to the Bible as an authoritative text. To us, it is just one of many philosophical texts. And while we do pay it attention, we do not place it on a pedestal. Fungi spoke gently. I'm happy you finally come to our club. I have to be honest and say that I would not have come if there wasn't a question on my mind for which I can't find the answer. Then ask what you will, and we'll see if Lady Philosophy might have an answer for you. They looked at me with eager eyes, their ears pricked to hear what I was going to ask. I want to ask about homosexuality. The sun was beating down on us on this rocky plain amidst the green fields. I sat down with my legs crossed. They were all quiet for a minute until Fungi began. The question of what the human body may or may not be used for is one that is as old as time itself. The question of what is termed human sexuality perhaps is even older. Before you proceed, you must explain what you mean by human sexuality, the one called Menashe asked. It is the attribute within humans that make them interested in sex. Sex being that most pleasurable function of the body, which is sometimes used for procreation, but more often not. We assume that there are two types of sexuality since everything is made in pairs, light and dark, good and evil, etc. The one we shall call heterosexuality, which is an attraction of opposites, and the other, well, we shall call homosexuality, which is an attraction of matching subjects. What of bisexuals? Bisexuality is not a true essence in itself because at any moment in time it can fall into the category of heterosexual or the category of homosexual. Therefore, it is an illusion that misleads us from the truth of our inquiry, and so we will avoid that false detour which will lead us nowhere. That is as true as it is necessary. So we have defined what is and what isn't, but because we have defined sexualities, we have to announce that it is males and females who partake in these activities. That men should be attracted to women and vice versa is something we shall take for granted. We also now take for granted that humans are created in these pairs, but there we find ourselves mistaken. There are hermaphrodites, those born with both genders who straddle the line between man and woman. That can only lead to the conclusion that man and woman may not be as distinct as they seem, said the one called Armstrong. Correct. When we use our brains, we can see that between the two genders, there are a myriad of possibilities. The leap from male to female is not as straightforward as our senses tell us. Therefore, when you look at what you think is a man and what you think is a woman, you often fail to recognize or acknowledge all the other ambiguities, all the other ambiguous possibilities. At this point, one of them stood up and left. If this weren't the subtle range, if there weren't this subtle range of distinctions, then these two sexualities would not exist. There would be one or none, but not two genders. At this juncture, we must then say that homosexuality is not only there, but that is actually necessary. After all, approximately 10% of any population is gay or homosexual. This is bullshit. 3 more of them stood up and left. In our reasoning, we can only turn to Lady Philosophy. Those who have preconceived notions of where she will lead us must leave because they are not seekers of the truth. Another 2 stood up and walked away. What I need to know, I asked, is if say I had a friend who is homosexual and the law is clearly against homosexuality, what should I do? I was worried that my question had been too bold. In a few short steps, we've already discovered that homosexuality is necessary. The question you now ask is of friendship and the law. There are 2 sets of laws, the natural law and man-made law. The illegality of homosexuality is the product of man-made laws. But, I said, there are things that are wrong in both natural and man-made laws. If stealing falls within both, then why should homosexuality only be covered by one? Stealing is a topic that we can have a day's debate on by itself, but we must note that stealing is something that harms other people, whereas homosexuality between 2 consenting adults behind closed doors harms no one, Fungi said firmly. I wish I could have said it harmed me and broken my heart. At this point, 2 more stood up and went, leaving only Fungi, Tonderai, and myself. I can only say that friendship should rise above man-made laws, which tend to be capricious by their very nature. I could not have known at the time that my question would lead to the collapse of this philosophy club. Whenever Fungi walked the streets with his dogs, youths called him the Ngunchani and kept him at arm's length. Only his friend Tonderai remained with him, and even he perhaps only because with his breath he could find no other friends.